recording! Hello, everybody. This is Constance from Mysterious Galaxy. I want to thank you all so very much for joining us tonight. I'm super excited because I was really lucky in that I got to read this book a little bit earlier in the year. But we are here to celebrate A Golden Fury by... Now, Samantha, is your last name Cohoe?
Cohoe. It's
Cohoe.
like the salmon, Cohoe.
Oh, by Samantha Cohoe. And
it's
such an awesome book. Like, the writing in it is gorgeous. You can't tell, like, it doesn't read like a debut book. It's just a beautifully written book. That's an amazing story. And it goes into alchemy, which is such a huge world in it of itself, but you incorporated it in this really awesome scientific way into the book.
Thank you.
I have my questions set up, but I'll go ahead and let you, if you want to explain just a little bit about what Golden Fury is and yourself as a writer to our readers, and then I'll dive into my questions. And everybody who is listening, thank you so much for attending. And also, events are fun because of questions, and this is your time where you get to ask Samantha the questions that you have. So make sure where it says right down below, ask a question. Indeed, that is where you can ask a question. And also, if you want to buy the book, I will put the link down there. But we have a really cool thing in that not only can you get the book, oh no, you can get a signed and personalized copy of the book, which is...
I might sign this very copy for you.
Maybe that one.
Out of a book.
Like, you need to like do a little random doodle in it so that it's like the one.
So shiny. It looks really good in my ring light.
Yeah. We all are not experts with the ring light.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so if you want to buy, I'm doing it right now. You'll magically see the buy book button. It is as if it has magically appeared. But the book is awesome. So make sure you click that button. Samantha, I will let you give a little intro on yourself in the book, and then I'm going to straight dive into the questions I got for you.
Okay, so I'm Samantha. I live in Denver. I'm up until this year, I was a Latin teacher. A Golden Fury is my debut novel. It's about a teenage alchemist on the verge of a world-changing discovery, who discovers that there are terrible costs that she and those she loves may have to pay.
And I'm just going to go ahead and straight dive on in. Okay, so my first question that I want to ask is, what inspired you to deep dive into the world of alchemy? Because I feel like people approach alchemy from such a variety of different ways, but in this book in particular, you approach it from like a very scientific perspective, which I really enjoyed, especially like in the beginning and everything. So I'm like, how much research did you have to do? What inspired you to even think alchemy? Like, what kind of kicked it off for you?
Yeah, so I definitely was interested in historical alchemy, like alchemy as it was really practiced and it was really existed. A lot of times I feel like fantasy authors will sort of grab alchemy, like the idea of it, and almost just the word sometimes and make it whatever they want it to be, which is great, of course, because we can do whatever we want. We're fantasy authors. But I really liked I really like history. I like the history of science. I like philosophy. I like theology. And when you're studying those things, alchemy comes up as this sort of strange side note where these really brilliant people had different theories about how they were really going to be able to turn lead into gold and maybe produce the elixir of life and actually live forever. Like, they really thought they could do this. Like, people like Isaac Newton were really into alchemy. And so I thought that the ambition of that goal was just really a natural like goal for a fantasy novel. And I love ambition. I love stories about ambition, and in particular, stories about the dark side of ambition. And alchemy just to me seemed to, like, it had, obviously I did something a little different in the book about the dark side of alchemy, but even just in the way it was practiced in history, it was kind of dark. Like it was, alchemists were supposed to have, like they were considered to be either charlatans or sorcerers, or maybe they'd made deals with the devil, or they would go crazy because they did a lot of stuff with mercury, which is never great for your physical or mental health. And even like kind of best case scenario, if they maybe made a contribution to science or chemistry or something, they never got what they really wanted, And so these are guys who spent their whole lives pursuing something that was impossible. And so I found that to be really an alluring concept.
Oh, well, I love how you did it. And it's just, you do it so well. And I love to with alchemy. It's like you said, sometimes people will pull things, and that's the beautiful thing about fantasies. You can be like, magic, it comes with no cost.
I do what I want.
Exactly. Yeah. But I love how you really do stick to the darker side of it, where nothing is free, and the greater a reward or the greater of a thing you are pursuing, the cost you can pay for that is exponentially a lot higher, as our characters find out.
Yes, they do.
Right? Yes, they very much.
They sure do. No spoilers, but
yes, spoiler free. But hard lessons are learned in this book, ladies and gents. And so I think what's really cool is the relationship between Hope and her mother. Hope is the main protagonist for everyone who hasn't gotten to read it. And what's really fascinating is that with Alchemy 1, her mom is a woman, and she is so prestigious in the field. And I was wondering, was there any actual historical figures who influenced the mother? And also, too, this is kind of like a follow-up to that, but I thought it was really interesting how the mom had to get her funds and whatnot for doing the alchemy more through like private people investing in her research, where the father and a lot of the men in the characters were very much involved in academia a lot more. So I know those are kind of two different questions, but was there any historical figure who influenced her?
I wish I could say yes. I don't know of any famous women alchemists, actually, other than Theosebia, who was sort of a legendary, like way back, maybe not real, ancient Greek alchemist, about whom very little is known. But I think the reason that I picked a mother alchemist is that I find mother-daughter dynamics to be extremely interesting. And that was something that I was ready to delve into, like maybe in my own, out of my own trauma, perhaps. So I did think about how a woman would get funding for this. And the answer really was just like, well, she just had to be amazing. And then maybe more than amazing, like maybe she had to be really good at getting men to give her things. And I would say that it's sort of the institutional support for alchemy is part of the fantasy part of this world, because like Oxford was never close to getting a department of alchemy. Like that's made up. Yeah. They also did not have one in Bologna. Like that's, but you're right that like there would have been more support. There would have been more money. It would have been a lot easier for men to do this. And so the particular way that Marguerite goes about funding her pursuits did seem like a product of the time and place, and of being a woman in that time and place.
And is it Theosia? That's how you pronounce her name?
So Theosebia.
Theosebia. Because I'm one of those readers where like, in my mind, how I say the name sounds amazing. But if I try and say it how I say it is probably not going to be the accurate pronunciation. So I'm like...
I'm not surprised. I mean, there even is like a she like lays it out at one point, but it's still like I trip on it because I just think of her as Thea. So yeah, Theasebia. Which yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Like, there's probably a lot of different ways you could pronounce it. Theasebia. Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of like Theodosia.
That's a good way to remember it. I'm not going to say how I was saying it in my brain because it wasn't close to that.
Oh, I'm so curious though. Tell me.
It was like this. I don't even know if I can try and do it now.
No, it's okay.
Idea, I think, is where my brain was going more with.
Oh, I like that. Yeah,
but then, like, when it gets shortened down,
yeah,
when it gets shortened down though to Thea, though, I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
And I love the time period that you set the book in. So what gravitated you towards that time period? Is it because, like, historically that's kind of when, like, academia and that's when alchemy and everything were big, or what made you pick this time period?
So it's honestly a little bit late for alchemy. I mean, alchemists were still doing stuff in 1792, but it's not like the heyday when people were the most obsessed. What I liked about it, I think part of my initial concept was like, wow, what if there was, and this was just like back when it was just pinpricks of ideas in my head, like, what if there was a department of alchemy at Oxford? And so, I mean, Oxford doesn't really have departments like that, but that was how I thought about it. And I think I just couldn't resist orbiting the French Revolution, because the French Revolution is just the coolest, like, most dramatic event in history. So I it's not like in the thick of the French Revolution, but I like being kind of on the edges of it. And it gave me the opportunity to introduce themes about, like, equality and certain Enlightenment ideas that were important in the French Revolution. And it's just like on the cusp of this huge change, like this huge foment, which, like, Thea thinks that her discovery could be a part of.
And it's so cool too, because I'm not going to give spoilers, but it's cool how the French Revolution is a time of change, but also very much sets off lots of the changes and pushes her into the adventure that.
Yeah, it's part of the inciting incident. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Did being a Latin teacher, like, help at all? Because, I mean, alchemy has all these ancient languages. And
yeah.
So did that help when, like, writing any of this stuff? Or what was it like having to, like, create, like, these old texts and all of these cool things you have in it?
I mean, I would say it helped. I definitely do have some Latin in the book. I mean, actually, even the book stamp is Latin. See? It's can you see it? Cohoe, can you see the book? Yeah, I can, yeah. Cohoe maledictionem alchemistae, or beware the alchemist curse. So it was fun to get, I mean, a lot of alchemy anyway would have been conducted in Latin. So it was fun to be able to get that in there. Yes, hidden geekery. That's very much my brand. Yeah.
Well, we very much support hidden and unhidden geekery. So
it's not that hidden. It's some of it's hidden, some of it's not. And then I also, my Thea gets to make like a crack about, or a little jab about somebody's Latin not being very good, which is that's fun. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I used it. I mean, I used a bunch of other languages I don't know, and those ones I really had to get a lot of help with, and they came up a lot in copy edits. Whereas the Latin, I was like, no, I know that's right. So
if anything, you're like, excuse me, I will correct your Latin while you're trying.
Yeah, actually, my copy editor had a couple of suggestions. Like, they got somebody who knew Latin, and I was like, no. We'll be using this word, and if you really need me to attest it, I could find some sources. That's
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
So, when you were like creating the texts and everything that are in this book that that Thea uses, like for resources and for research, because her and her mom in particular did a lot of research, are those texts, are they ones that you created?
Those are real. No, those are real.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of the texts that I reference, I just stole them from history.
That's awesome though, because they're cool.
Yeah, they are cool. I thought they were cool. What I loved about alchemy as a world building, and magic system, is that I didn't actually have to come up with anything really. I mean, I was just like, and what if it worked? But there was this twist, and that was it. Everything else was just like, let's find some texts, let's find some experiments, let's let's see what alchemists actually did, and so. Yeah, in a way that makes it a lot easier. In another way, it makes it kind of hard because you have to do research. But I like that. So
Research sometimes though, I think the weirder the research, the more fun it is, because you'll find, especially with alchemy, I'm sure you found so many random cool pockets of people and things. Was there anything in particular that stuck out to you? It's just no one knows about this, but this is so crazy, fascinating, interesting, or was there anything like that?
Yeah, this one I bring up a lot because it really did stand out to me. There's somebody, and I have brought it up enough times that I should know his name, but there's somebody at Johns Hopkins who's doing his dissertation on, or maybe did his dissertation, he's probably done, on which Chinese emperors died early from taking alchemical potions. And it's speculation, but alchemy existed all over the world in different forms. And in China, it was very much elixir-based. They were more interested in the elixir of life version of alchemy than the transmuting metals version.
Yeah.
And in particular, I guess there were some emperors who got really into taking these potions, and it's not too much of a stretch to assume that these potions were actually really bad for your health. So this guy's doing his dissertation on which emperors died early because of elixir-based potions that they took.
Once again, do not drink the lead and the mercury.
Yeah, don't drink the mercury. It's so pretty, but it's not going to go well. It looks like maybe it could be good for you, but it's not. Yeah.
Just don't drink any liquid metals and/or elements.
Oh, yeah, no. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So then for your book, I'm guessing then you had more of a focus on the European alchemy as opposed to the Asian alchemy.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Oh no.
See me? Hear me? Hello?
You just froze for a minute. I'm sorry. Are you there?
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, someone in the comments put Elixir of Life Epic Failure 542.
Yeah.
Well,
this chat is funny. I'm trying not to get distracted by it. You guys are funny. All right.
I know. Our readers are awesome. Oh, yes. Questions.
Yeah. I missed what you said because you were frozen and I was just gawking at the screen.
So one of the things I feel with writing in particular, it can be so hard to fixate on the challenges of writing because there's a plethora of them and an unending amount of challenges. So one of the questions that I always like to ask authors is on the opposite spectrum. And it is, what scene or section, part of this book brought you the most joy to write?
So I loved writing the opening, and actually the opening as I first wrote it is not the current opening. It's basically when when Thea hears her mother scream and goes to her room and then goes to the lab.
Wait, that was the what?
That was the beginning. Yeah, that was the beginning. I did everything that came before that was added in the revision with my editor. But what I loved writing that because it felt really easy. It was just incredibly easy to slip into her head and into her voice. This was not the first book I wrote. This was the second book I wrote. And the first book I wrote, I really did not know what I was doing, and nothing was easy at any point. It was really fun, but it took me 7 years to finish, so it was not easy. But this, I was just like, oh yeah, this is working. So there was that element, and then there's another scene later on that I wrote in revision as well when I was sort of trying to I was adding character scenes between Thea and Valentin. I don't want to spoil it, but it's kind of like it's a down moment. It's like sort of a nice moment, but also there's something very terrifying happening in the corner of the room. If that gives you enough information.
I have a couple different things going through my mind right now.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of terrifying things happening in corners of rooms. Anyway, that scene, or there's sort of like a little bit of a detente between Valentin and Thea, and like there's just like a little bit of a softness between them. I really liked it. I liked writing that. Yeah.
And
So
that reminds me, like, I love how, in particular, your male characters have so much depth.
Thank you.
Where Thea she's just an amazing character, and so is her mom. But I think what's really cool, in particular, about this, there are a lot of male characters, but they represent a whole spectrum. Where you have like the guy who is the patron for her mom in the beginning is a very fatherly figure, and then you have some guys who are not so great. I won't say anything about them.
There's definitely some of those, yeah.
There are good eggs and there are bad eggs in this book, and it's just really cool to see the whole spectrum of male characters, because so often I feel like, in particular in YA, you'll see very much a wide variety of female characters, and it was really cool to see just like the whole dynamic cast you brought to it. So that's not a question, but thank you for doing that. It was really cool as a reader to have that, and to also in a very much like a male-centric world, to have a very strong female protagonist who got to interact with all of them. And it was cool getting to see how she's affected by all of the different guys that she interacts with. So
thank you. You know, that I forget what it was. It was somebody asked him how he wrote good women characters, and he said, well, I believe that women are people. Was that, you know, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I believe that men are people.
Yes, I totally agree. I love that. I can't, because I'm trying to remember it, I won't be able to now, but I feel
I wasn't, I don't know. I was going to say Neil Gaiman, but I don't know that that's right. That's probably wrong. Anyway.
I mean, it's a great point. It's like, I'm just writing people.
Yeah.
Good ones and there's bad ones out there.
But yeah, it is a very male dominated world. So I didn't have, I sort of felt like I didn't have a ton of space to have female characters, honestly. Like, I was trying to carve out room for them in the story. So it does end up having a lot of male characters. So it's good that you feel that they read as fleshed out. I'm glad. There's a lot of them.
And I found it very refreshing too to see strong male characters who didn't have to be like an atypical kind of like alpha guy or like whatever you want to call it. They were very strong in their compassion and intellect and capacity, which were just really cool. That's just me fangirling right now about the male characters. I'm sorry, guys. It's a very great question. Thank you. So I will go ahead and move into some of the questions you guys have submitted. This one is a writing question. It says, how long did it take you to get published from the time you got your idea for the book to today?
Wow. It's been a journey. Let's see. I got the idea for this book in 2016. Or maybe like the very end of 2015. And I drafted at the beginning of 2016. So it didn't take me that long. I think I took like 5 months to draft it. And then I did not have an agent at that point, but I actually just about right when I was done drafting it and was starting to think about querying, I got an agent for my previous project. Oh. And so then I was revising that project for like a year before I sent my agent this one. And then she was like, oh, never mind. We're going to do this first. This is the one we're going to sub. And then I did a big revision for her. And then I was on submission for a year. But then I sold my book in summer of 2018. And it is now, October 2020. Publishing is a long road. It's a long road, but
Yes, woohoo! Yes to the woohoo in the comments.
yes, thank you, yeah. But my next book comes out next year, so I think hopefully that the waiting will, like, the train has gotten going. I hope so. Maybe it'll, get a little momentum.
And I know this is such. I apologize if you have been asked this, because everyone gets asked this. Was your second book like painfully torturous, or did you actually enjoy getting to write the second book?
So when I say second book, it's not a sequel. Somebody asked in the chat. It's not a sequel. The Golden Fury is a standalone. So
it is a rare egg of a standalone.
Yeah.
You don't want to throw it across the room saying, "What happens next?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hopefully you find it to be satisfying, and if you don't, then you can write fan fiction. But I didn't write my second book while I was waiting on this. So I wrote a whole different book that is maybe going to be book 3, but book 2 was already drafted by the time I sold A Golden Fury. So I sort of didn't have book 2 syndrome, just because it was like, what the things that people describe about it, like, oh, there's all this pressure and all these expectations, and before I had all the time in the world, and now I'm writing to a deadline. It wasn't like that for me.
Nice.
Because I wrote book 2 while I was on submission, basically. Yeah, which I do recommend. I really recommend that. Yeah, it was really good. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have like book 3 syndrome. Hopefully not. But it's
Crossing all fingers and toes.
Seriously. Thank you. Yes.
I'm petting a black cat behind me. Insert all of the
knock on wood. Just cover our bases. Yeah. So no, but I get it. I definitely get it, because if I were trying to write my second book and reading reviews as they trickled in, I think that would really have messed with my head. Yeah, reading reviews mess with my head anyway, and I have now blocked Goodreads.
I was about to say, don't ever read the reviews. Don't do it.
Oh, I have no self-control. If I can get to them, I will read them, which is now an issue. Now that the book is out, there's all these reviews on Amazon. I'm like, what am I going to do? Block? Am I going to block? Do I have to block Amazon? Which probably would be good. I should probably do that. Anyway, I forget what I was talking about other than reviews, and they mess with your head, and you kind of have to write without thinking about how people are going to react to it. And you can't do that if you're sitting there reading every review as it comes onto Goodreads. It's impossible.
This is true. The creative brain and then the business brain sometimes can definitely fight with each other. And then also just the internet is full of good and bad, and everyone has an opinion.
Yeah. I actually, so as much as I'm like, oh, well, that person is just ridiculous, I disagree with that review. I've blocked them, but I read a lot of them, and I feel like as the themes came out, it actually was, if I could take it without it being like, the gut punch. Yeah. It is really interesting to get an overview of reactions and to understand. You understand more about your audience that way. And like, for instance, wow, YA readers, they really want romance. They do. Boy, do they not like it if your romance maybe doesn't turn out the way they expected. No spoilers. But that's not their preference, which is fine.
No, it is true though. I've had other authors say the same thing to me, where like, depending on where they get put, if the book does end up getting put in YA, and I love romance, so this is like, I can't say that I don't love romance, because I do.
I love romance too. Romance is great.
Not every
book needs to be. Yeah
exactly. Oh, okay. So the next question we have, you kind of touched on this with the French Revolution, but this says, what part of history is your favorite? So I'm guessing French Revolution.
I do love me some French Revolution. I love I mean, I'm a Latin teacher. I love ancient times. I love the Roman Republic, the Roman Empire. That time in Rome that everybody loves, where it's Julius Caesar and Cato, and Octavian, Mark Antony. I love all that. So Rome. I love Rome.
There's so much drama.
It's so dramatic, and actually,
I do not love the drama.
a lot of the themes that play out in the late Roman Republic are kind of similar to some things that bubble up in the French Revolution. So that's good stuff. Yeah.
What are the similarities between the two of them that you find like?
So there was a long-standing divide in Rome between the populares and the optimates, and it's basically like Rome had this sort of representative government, but it was so there's always a struggle between the common people and the patricians, the people with money and status and stuff, and that struggle was taken up by people like Marius and Sulla, and then Julius Caesar. He co-opted it, like the dictators did their own thing with it, but hey, that happens in the French Revolution too. So yeah. Anyway,
it's like history repeats itself.
Yeah, it is like that. It's like people are people, and they end up forming similar societies, having similar problems.
Yeah, we always think, well, we do take steps forward, I would like to think, but at the end of the day, humanity is still humanity. Yeah. And we do still have some tendencies that are good as well as bad. Ooh. Let me see. Sorry, this is a funny question, so I'm just going to ask.
Okay.
What is the worst writing advice you have received, and what is the best?
Whoa, the worst writing advice. Oh, you know what? And I don't think this was writing advice I got, not from somebody who was a serious writer, but it was advice. They did give it to me. It was like, why don't you just write when you feel like writing, when inspiration hits you? That was the advice. Like, well, if I did that, I would maybe write one book in my entire life. Maybe. If I really just wrote when I felt like it, you can't do that and actually get anything done. And maybe some people can. I would be very jealous if there are actually people who could do that.
I would be jealous of them as well. That would be a superpower.
Yeah, it would. And then I think the best writing advice I ever got is probably, like, I really like the beginning part of Story Genius. And I don't know if I can count this as writing advice, but basically having your characters' misbelief, the lie that they believe, drive the plot that they need to go through.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. The lie that they believe about themselves and their life has to drive their journey.
And I think that's so important because at like the reality of what most of us go through, especially when it's about like self-perception and having to learn that what you think is not necessarily what it is, or to relearn things about yourself. It's an amazing thing that moves a plot along too, especially when you have characters like Ian, they have such strong convictions that come from good places, but they have to, there's just a lot to learn, and that discovery is one of like my favorite things to actually get to read with characters, just because it's such a genuine feeling journey that you go on with them, regardless of if there's like magic and flaming dragons or spaceships or whatever. It's such a human part of stories.
Yeah, I agree.
So this person is asking, so when can we expect a Roman mythology retelling?
Oh, that's what I'm working on next. Like literally next week, I'm diving back in. This is a project that I started at the beginning of quarantine. So I didn't get that far in it, and then I had revisions and stuff to do, but I'm going back to it, and you're going to get it, I hope.
So that'll be book 3, right?
That might be book 4. I haven't sold past book 2, but we have a possible book 3 sort of in the tank. But we'll see. Could be book 3.
That's a good incentive, guys. If you want the Roman mythology awesomeness, then support her and buy her book.
Yeah, buy my book. and then in 3 more books, you can get the Roman mythology book.
Exactly.
Buy my book and my next book, and then maybe the book after that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so this is more of a general question, but Kristen is wondering, what are you reading that we might like? So any book recommendations for ye old pandemic and everyone being inside?
Okay, so let's see. The last YA book, I've been reading the Kendara Blake series. They all have similar names. 3 dark.
They all have the numbers in them. Yes.
1 dark throne. 5 dark fates. Yes, thank you. 3 dark crowns. Yeah, so those are cool. What I like about those, there's always some kind of like, what? Like moment at the end where you're like, oh my God. Yeah, so I really like those. I loved Deadly Education.
Same.
Loved it. And
another reading binge because the pacing on it's so quick. That one.
Yeah, I read it in like a day. It was over. Let's see. I've been reading a lot of not YA books, actually. A really fun rom-com that I read recently was Tweet Cute, which is another Wednesday books book, but that was adorable. I love that. I read that at the beginning of the pandemic when I was just sort of like, can I get some happiness, please?
I know. I think I had the same thing happen. I definitely went on like a romance kick where when you looked at what was reading and like audiobooks, it was all like fluff.
Yeah. And it was definitely like a little shot of sunshine, you know, like vitamin D and a cupcake. It was fun.
So, yeah. It's different for every writer when I hear this, but since you write YA, when you want to read them, do you feel like you want to get like out of the YA circle and you want to read genres that like are not YA or that aren't fantasy or whatever you're writing? Or do you like to read YA when you're writing it and in that headspace?
I feel like I pretty consistently alternate YA and like adult genre or lit fic. I try not to I do feel that if I read exclusively YA for a while, I get very, I get a little stuck in tropes. I like tropes, nothing against tropes, but I like to be a little bit, just a little bit more creative with my use of tropes and not just be copying tropes that I'm seeing in other books. So yeah, I do try. I want to keep up with the market, and I do just like really enjoy YA. But I try to mix it up so that I don't get stuck in any ruts creatively. Can I recommend one more book on the cupcake scale? Amanda Selleck's Buy the Book is very much in the same vein of just like, here, have some delight. Here's some enjoyment for you. It's just like, I feel like just something we all need.
I feel like we need to have that now as a section, like where we recommend books, where we have our very like serious like books that are great to read. But I feel like we now need a section that's just like your vitamin D supplement for the
vitamin D in a cupcake section. That's funny. I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a good emotion for us to have a vitamin D in a cupcake.
Yeah. But don't just read those books, because you do want, a little darkness and torment in your life too, right?
No. One's really. So, did you intend to write a YA novel? Is another one I think is always interesting, because your book is a good book. Like, it doesn't matter about the genre it's in. So when you set out to write it, did you intend for it to be a YA book, or how did that come about?
I did. I would say my first book, I wasn't trying to write a YA book. I was just trying to write an epic fantasy. But it just so happened that all of the characters were teenagers, and it ended up feeling like a YA book for that reason. And then I was like, oh, YA is a thing. And then I think that what I really love about YA is it's super immediate. Like the voice has to be very like right on. You have to be right in the character's head. And I like young people on the cusp of change, you know, that like, who doesn't? Like, that's always it's very easy for me to access that time in my life and those emotions. So by the time I knew what YA was, I was thinking, yeah, I think I want to write YA. That makes sense to me. And that when I was writing A Golden Fury, I was aware of that. But I don't necessarily, I think of myself as a YA writer, but I don't think, I think that's kind of an accident of marketing almost.
No, I know what you mean.
YA, yeah, it doesn't have to be, it is for teenagers, and that's what's true about it. But everybody can access that time in their life, I think. Everybody remembers what it's like to be a teenager. Maybe not everybody, but a whole lot of people. And so even if it's primarily for teens, it's more universal than that too.
And I know, like, for me and my friends, like, I'm in my 30s, but for YA, I love it because I'm a character-based reader. So I love engaging characters, and that's one of the things that draws me to YA so much. Like you said, you're in, like, the head of the character.
Yeah.
And seeing them change and grow is always just a cool journey to get to go on with them. This is a question that we just had come in. And I think it's interesting because alchemy and like witches really like they're like their total own circles. But how do you create women alchemists while avoiding witch stereotypes? Because a lot of the times people will kind of just lump everything together.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even think about that until I was kind of done with the book. And then I realized, well, I think the way that I did it was just by making them scientists. They don't think of themselves as magicians. They end up doing some magic, but that wasn't what they thought was going to happen. Like, they didn't think of it as magic. They thought of it as science. Yeah, they were kind of wrong. Like, they do end up kind of being witches, but only in the sense that they're doing magic, right? Like, so it doesn't. I think that they feel like women pursuing science and then getting some magic by accident.
I like that. that. They very much view themselves as like scientists. Like, don't alchemist, you'll probably get a very not too happy response from that. But
no, that would be an insult, right? Like, I'm sure that somebody did call them that, and I'm sure that it didn't go well for that person.
Oh no, I'm sure they got it.
I don't think Marguerite took that well or took it lying down. Yeah, no. Maybe
that's why the emperors were drinking mercury. Maybe they knew it was bad and they were like, "Oh, you think I'm a witch? I wish."
Yeah.
So this is another writing question. It does tie back into a question we previously had, but they're wondering, what is specifically your top advice for the aspiring writers out there?
My advice for aspiring writers. Okay. So I think my biggest advice is to take it seriously, to make sure you are, don't just write when you feel inspired and feel like it. If you want to succeed, you really do have to treat it like a serious pursuit, even if it is, it's not going to be your job probably for a while, if ever. Carve out time, think about craft, but also just remember to have fun with it, because there isn't much point if you're not, it's not going to be fun all the time, but like, if you're not finding the joy in creation, even if that's just sort of like afterwards when you're done struggling, you're like, hey, that's awesome. I really enjoy that. Even if it's just that, then, take a break. Because the part that stays is that part. And I will say, like, even after my book coming out and it's amazing and like, look at it, it's beautiful. Like, I love getting to see that has been incredible, and having readers. Of course, you do write for readers, but still the best part of it are the times when you love what you've written, or you are really excited about an idea, or you're discovering something between characters or about a character. Just like the creative parts are just the best parts. So by all means, pursue publication, but just don't lose track of those parts of it and the joy in creation while you are doing it, because it's really easy to get distracted and bogged down by like all the rejection and the just like emails now. So many emails. Like
a never-ending array of emails.
Yeah. And the dream of publication is really good. It feels good to get there, but still the best part. And I think this would be true, like no matter how many accolades you got, still the best part is the creation. And so don't forget that you can have that, whether you can publish or not.
And with art too, it's like when you're creating art, you need to be able to put the love into it. And it's easy to forget sometimes when something that's so creative becomes your job. But I think that's amazing advice, because when you're looking at the art that's been produced, you can tell if there's been love and enjoyment, and if the person who's created it like loved what they were doing, versus if it was just I need to just create something, so there it is.
Yeah, I'm under contract. Like, gotta meet this deadline. Yeah. So, like, if you're somebody who's pursuing publication, like, I know what that feels like, and the longing for it. It's just like it's intense, right? It's really intense. But just try to enjoy the creative part too, because that really is. You might not believe me now, but it really is the best part.
The best writing advice I think we've gotten to hear.
Oh, thank you.
Everyone forgets that you have to keep the joy.
You do.
So we are getting close to our time for the end of this. And I want to ask, what is this book 2 that is coming out? We've got to talk about book 1, Golden Fury. We've gotten to talk about book 3 and potentially book 4, but we've got 2.
Right, and book 0, the project that I...
Yes, exactly. The one that came before.
Yeah, book 2. Okay, so book 2 comes out fall 2021 with Wednesday Books. It is called Bright Ruined Things. Yes. Yes. It is a YA fantasy retelling of Shakespeare's Tempest, set in a sort of magical 1920s world. It's vibes and themes of the Tempest and some characters, but it's not really, the plot is not very similar. So the plot is there's this powerful magical family called the Prospers. And they have a big party every year to commemorate their like sort of conquest of this magical island. And this year, their teenage ward, May, has a plan for how the night will go. And over the course of the night, some of the family's secrets start to come out. She discovers that they are not what they seem. And she takes her chance to seize the magic that they've always denied her.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Oh my
God! I really like it. I'm really excited about it. We're just now starting to brainstorm covers, which I'm super excited about, because like 1920s and like they're gonna sparkle it up.
There's flapper dresses, right? Feather.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the clothes are great. Like I do a lot of descriptions of clothing, jewelry. Yeah, it's that I had fun with that for sure.
I know that's so silly to be like, great, with all this amazing plot and characters, but the clothes. But I'm like,
no, it's not silly. No,
that
matters.
We're so great.
Yeah. That's really why I picked the 1920s, just for the clothes. Yeah, but you can add that on Goodreads now. You can't buy it yet, but not too long. You can pre-order it. So.
Well, I will make sure to remind people about it, because since I could not help just geeking out about the premise of what it's about, I'm looking forward to it next year.
Yeah.
But I think we are out of time now, and we got to everyone's questions, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for joining us.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
And also, I have to point out, you have beautiful hair, but everyone, she has the most awesome earrings on. I just have to give a shout out to her amazing earrings that she is rocking for you tonight.
They're very light. They look like they'd be heavy, but they're light.
But they are so. I've been looking at them and coveting the whole event. But thank you so much to Samantha for joining us. Thank you to all readers for joining us. I can personally say this book is just such a good book, and it's so awesome. It's dark and good in all of the best ways that you're looking for in a YA book, and just like the alchemy and everything. It's so freaking cool. So if you want a signed copy, the buy button is down there. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for attending. Samantha, I hope to see you in person one of these days.
Absolutely. Yes, I would love to come to San Diego, for sure. Yes.
And we will see everyone next time. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.